Okay, let's start this video today by asking a question. Have you ever walked into a room, whether that room be at work, or whether it's at home, and you have immediately started kind of looking around for what needs doing, or what needs fixing, or what needs solving in this room, looking to see who needs help in here, what hasn't been done that I need to get to, uh, what might fall through the cracks or have fallen through the cracks that I can sort out, I can save. Maybe in a workplace, it's noticing that someone in your team looks completely like a deer in the headlights. They look overwhelmed. Or it's noticing that the project timeline isn't quite clear. Or at home, it's noticing that, wow, okay, dinner hasn't been planned and tomorrow's school forms haven't been signed. And I guess I'm going to do that. And before anybody even asks you to do it, you have already stepped in and started doing it, started solving it, or started fixing it all. And if that sounds familiar, you are not alone. This is one of the patterns that have seen in myself, and I see it in most of the working mums that I work with. And it is this subconscious but very powerful identity of the responsible one. So the responsible one makes sure everything works. She's the one people can rely on. She is the one who sorts everything out. Don't worry, I've got this. And while that identity is great because it makes you incredibly capable, it makes you effective, it makes you appreciated, it's affirmed and praised by those around you, it also creates unbelievable hidden pressure that many of us do not know that we are even carrying. So today I want to unpack why we as high achieving driven women often feel responsible for everything and what the responsibility is costing us, what it's costing you. And the problem is that high achieving women often feel responsible for everything, not because anybody has asked them to be responsible, but because their identity tells them that they should. That responsible one tells them that they should. So we don't wake up one day and simply decide, well, I think I'll carry the entire emotional and organizational load of every environment I'm in, and off we go, and we do that. This responsibility develops much earlier on than the time when you begin to see it creating pressure in your life. So it has been built up through your youth, through your young adulthood, into this place where you are now as a mother in a career, holding on to this identity. When you were young, you were praised for being responsible. I even hear it saying it to my children. Oh, well done. That's so responsible of you. Praised for being helpful, for being capable, for being mature for your age. I have a client who became the one known in her family for always knowing everybody's telephone number, everybody's birthday. Oh, just go and chat to her. She knows it all. For always laying the table at night. And she was praised for it. And it became her identity. It became the identity that she had to live into. So maybe you were the child who did well at school or helped out at home a lot or kept the peace in the family. Maybe you looked after siblings, or you just learnt that being reliable means being valued. And yes, you were praised for that. And your brain took note of that. Your brain was like, okay, it learned when I am capable and responsible, then I am safe. Then I am acceptable. Then I belong. There is a name for this. Psychologists call this conditional identity formation, when our sense of who we are becomes tied to how we perform or how we behave. And over time, this responsible one identity becomes automatic. It becomes your default way of being. You become the one who notices what everyone around you needs, who anticipates, who does it all, who works so hard to make sure that everything is going well and that everyone is happy. It's very tiring. But the thing is that what makes this so unbelievably hard is that once you become known as the capable one, something happens which reinforces the issue, and it is that actually then people trust you. Your managers rely on you. Family members just assume that you will handle things. And as a result of that, gradually more and more responsibility finds its way to you. You just find yourself being piled with more and more responsibility from yourself and from those around you. And this is not necessarily because those around you are trying to overload you, or because they are specifically thinking, oh, just hand it over to Charlotte because she knows she can do it. You know, Charlotte's proved that I can do it. I can carry it all. I automatically take it on. They automatically hand it over because of that. It's not even a thought process of theirs. It's just an automatic assumption and movement. And oh, what a cycle to be in. We take it on, we get handed it. We take it on, we get handed it until we are breaking under the load. Now, the fascinating research into workplace dynamics has found, and I suppose this might not be surprising, but found that women often take on more non-promotable work than their male colleagues. So this includes things like organizing things like supporting your colleagues. I have a client who bakes a cake for her colleagues whenever the necessity arises. and that's just another thing that she's now got to think about, another thing that she's got to do. Women carry the emotional labor of a team or of a project. That's often women who are mentoring people or solving team problems. And this is absolutely vitally important work, but it is often invisible. It is often done without any fanfare, and it is often done without any recognition. And the very difficult thing for working mums is that at home, something similar is going on. So working mothers walk out of the workplace and into their home and then back into the workplace all the time, carrying we know this term so well, carrying the mental load, whether it's of home or whether it's of the workplace. The invisible planning, the anticipating, all the things that keep family life running, as well as the things that keep their workplace running, their team running, all the remembering and the coordinating and the noticing and the play dates and the homework and the school projects and the sports games and the meal planning and the things that are needed at work and whose birthday it is at work and how this person is managing and work and what the deadline is. And you end up carrying responsibility in two domains at once, that work domain and that home domain. And your brain rarely switches off from either or even has space for a moment to think, what would work for me in this moment? And it's very difficult because at first, this identity of the responsible one feels very empowering. You know, this idea that I can do this, I've got this, I'm in control. It feels quite good to remember everything and be in control of everything and be in charge of everything. You feel capable and trusted and needed. But over time, the identity pressure grows because the responsibility that you hold eventually turns into over responsibility. And when you are in that state of over responsibility, you are now not just responsible for your work and the way you do things, but for everything around you as well. You are responsible for whether the meeting goes well, or whether your team feels supported, or whether your child is coping at school, or whether everyone else is okay. Whew. And when you carry that level of responsibility for long enough, your nervous system this incredible system that is there to protect you, to make sure that you are safe, begins to operate out of a place of constant vigilance. So it is always looking for the place where you might drop the ball. So now you are always scanning, you're always anticipating, because you always have to keep things in control, have to be on top of things, to keep the identity in your head, the responsible one, happy, to keep her safe in the knowledge that you are meeting all the rules that allow you to be acceptable and loved. And so, yes, while that state can make you incredibly effective in the short term, over the long term, it drains your internal capacity, your inner battery, if you like. It drains the energy and the interest and the motivation that you have to perform at your best at work and at home. This is where identity-based stress comes in, because the responsible identity, she's not just saying to you, I can handle this, I've got this. What she's also saying is, when things aren't quite going right, or when maybe you aren't so certain, she's saying, I should handle this. I should be more in control. I should be able to look after everybody. So suddenly that responsibility isn't a choice anymore. It's not something that you have chosen to take on. It's actually become an expectation that you place on yourself. So then you start thinking, well, if I don't do it, no one will. Or I should be able to manage this. Why can't I? Or start comparing. Oh, so-and-so is managing quite a lot better than I am. And then we get to that point, oh, if this was just easier, or if I were just more capable, I'd be able to handle it. And so then you keep stepping in, because you've now got to continually appease that responsible one and show her that you are capable, you are responsible, even when you are at the point when you are just longing for, wishing for someone else to take the lead. You can't let go, because you have to prove that you are acceptable, lovable, valuable. And over time, that is the pattern that doesn't take away your capability, but it does, as I say, drain your capacity, drain your inner battery. It leaves you absolutely exhausted, because it just sucks out all the energy and all the steadiness that actually sustain your capability, allow you to perform at your best. So I want to offer you something that I say to many of my clients. Being responsible does not mean being responsible for everything. In fact, you cannot be responsible for everything. You are only responsible for yourself, for how you think, for how you feel, for how you show up in the world. True leadership, and you are a leader of your home, of your workplace, of yourself. True leadership is not about doing it all, about carrying every load, about taking responsibility for everything. True leadership actually is about creating systems and setting up boundaries and sharing responsibility, trusting other people enough to be able to share the responsibility with them. But when the responsible one identity is running the show, it can feel almost impossible, actually, to step back. It's really hard, because letting go of that responsibility, stepping back a little bit, might feel a little bit more like, oh, I'm letting people down. When you step back, or even when you think about stepping back, it would be quite interesting. Take a moment. What is the thought that I have if I think about letting go of some of this stuff? Maybe there's a fear of losing control. Maybe there's a fear of not being who people expect you to be. And that fear, that is when the nervous system registers threat. And it creates a fear, it creates a stress response. There's no longer a physical danger like we used to experience, maybe a lion or a tiger or a snake or something. But in today's world, we experience identity threat. So in this case, the identity threat is the fear of no longer being the person who holds everything together, no longer being seen as the person who is responsible or reliable or trustworthy or good. We are stuck in the good girl cycle, and it's so hard to get out of it. So in my work, I teach clients and organizations about how we move from this place of identity pressure that leads to identity-based stress into a place of identity-led resilience. This is the kind of resilience that allows you to lead from certainty, from executive thinking, from thinking from your prefrontal cortex rather than from your emotional brain. Leads to clear decision making, innovation, really being able to be productive and at your best. So there's a difference then between this over responsibility and then resilient responsibility. So resilient responsibility does not necessarily mean that you become careless or you become irresponsible, or maybe you just withdraw from everything and let it all go and give up and abandon the things that do all the things that don't matter to you. When you live your life from a place of identity-led resilience, you move from holding on to everything, doing everything, carrying everything, to a place where you choose what you do. You choose the responsibilities you carry without worrying what others will think, or without even judging yourself. That inner critic is quieter, and as a result of that, you can move from this place of reactive responsibility, taking on everything, to a place of conscious leadership. I am leading myself, I'm leading my workplace, I'm leading my home with intentionality, with purpose, with choice. I am present, I am focused, I get things done because they are the things that I have chosen to do. They are the things I have chosen to give my time and my attention to. Resilient women learn to recognize those rules of their false or their conditional identities, like that responsible one, and to see the behaviors that they are practicing that those rules have resulted in. So let's think about that responsible one. What are the kinds of things that a resilient woman would do? So she would notice when she is taking on over responsibility. She would notice, okay, first of all, I know what that feels like. It feels like pressure. It feels like overwhelm. What am I holding that I don't really want to or need to? She would allow herself, or she would have the capacity to pause before she steps in, before she does, before she fixes, before she solves everything. I mentioned earlier about trusting other people. She would allow other people to hold their part, to take responsibility for what actually belongs to them, which is a very empowering tool to use to help other people. It's empowering from the other person's point of view. And she protects her own capacity, her own inner battery, by setting boundaries around her time and around her energy and around her involvement in certain activities. So the goal of resilience is not to become someone who never feels pressure. That is unrealistic. The storms are going to come. Things are going to happen. There is going to be external challenge that is going to come at you. But the goal is to become someone, and I love the analogy of a tree. If you think about a tree in the midst of the storm, a tree that is rooted, deeply rooted and certain in how it stands, but also flexible enough to not be broken by the storm, to not feel the pressure of the responsibility so intensely that you collapse under it. That is what resilience allows you to do. It allows you to bend with the external challenges, but to be so deeply rooted that you do not break, you do not feel the impact of what's going on around you. So I want to leave you with a question today. Where in your life have you been, maybe subconsciously, maybe consciously, or have you become, should I say, the one responsible for everything? And maybe it's at work, maybe it's at home, maybe it's in your relationships, maybe it's in all three of these, and it's hugely pressurizing it. And it might be interesting, maybe it's quite worthwhile to just take a moment to slow down and have a look. Write them down if you need to. Or as you notice yourself doing them throughout the day, send yourself a quick message. Look at the things you take responsibility for and ask yourself which of these really are your responsibilities and which are the things that you take on because you should, or you want to be seen as the responsible one, the capable one, the reliable one. Sometimes the most resilient thing you can do is not to take on anymore, but actually to put something down and to be okay with putting that thing down, no matter what anybody else might think or what you think, because in reality, it's generally what we think other people might be thinking, what you think other people might think about the fact that you've put that down. So if you saw anything, you saw yourself in anything that I have said today, if you've had any moment of like, oh, yes, that sounds like me, it might be the sign that your identity as the responsible one has been running the show, maybe consciously, maybe subconsciously in the background for a long time. And yes, while that identity has probably helped you to succeed, to be successful, to achieve things, it may also be draining your capacity and your performance. This is exactly the work that I do inside my program Resilient and increasingly inside organizations, because we want to support high performing women to sustain their leadership, to sustain their performance without burning out. When you can take back the reins from the responsible one, you can be more present with your children. You can focus on the task at hand, this task I'm doing right now, rather than jumping around, becoming distracted, feeling unproductive at the end of the day. You take the pressure off and you truly find joy and peace and calm in this crazy, wonderful, busy season. I have seen it happen with so many of my clients, and I want to tell you today that it is possible for you too. One simple exercise I want to leave you with, I sometimes give my clients this to do, is at the end of the day, write down 3 things you took responsibility for today. So maybe you voice noted yourself earlier with all of those things that I suggested earlier. Write 3 of them down and then ask yourself, was this thing actually my responsibility, or did I take it on automatically? And you can then start to decipher, because you might be surprised by how often the responsible one is putting up her hand, volunteering you for things that no one actually asked you to take on. She is a sneaky little thing like that. And you have the capacity to take the reins back from her, to take back the time and the energy that you are losing by being the responsible one.